This other person is actually the, the commander of Pu'akulua training area, Colonel Borsi. Okay? Colonel Borsi is a local guy. Okay, went to Damien High School. He's actually my cousin's husband. Yeah, and he's also a field artillery officer, and he knows I'm a field artillery officer. I retired as a captain. He continued on to being a light colonel. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He served 2 tours in Iraq, 2 tours in Afghanistan. So he's a combat veteran, but he's also an officer, but he's also a local guy, right? When he came home, because he was actually he taught at West Point, yeah? And then after West Point, he was assigned to Hawaii to take over Pu'akulua. And I guess they needed a local guy to take over Pu'akulua. So he was at a family reunion, and he comes up and he says, "Hey, Keanu, my father-in-law says I gotta talk to you." I said, "Really?" "Keanu, all the other uncles saying I gotta talk to you." He said, "Really?" I said, "I want to disrupt our reunion and get you all agitated, but hey, just keep enjoying. We'll talk soon." Toward the end of the reunion, we sit down. I said, "Okay, Loretto, you and I are artillery officers." Yep. Because he knows my background too. I said, without getting into the issues, and I found out you taught at West Point, so I know you have an academic mind. I want to have you read my doctoral dissertation. After you read my doctoral dissertation, you call me. Then we start talking. So it'll come from a foundation, not that I'm talking to him to try to educate him in about 1 hour at a reunion. So what ends up happening is after the change of command ceremony, his wife Kekai calls me and says, "Hey, you want to come over, visit?" So they came up to our house, brought their 2 kids, and Loretto and I were talking outside. I said, "Okay, so now you understand from the dissertation." He goes, "Got it." He says, "What else do you know?" I said, "Well, I watched all your videos online." He did his own due diligence. See, that's what you do in the Army, in the military, called intel. Gather information. Don't make spot decisions. And that's what he did. So I said, "Okay, Loretto, we're outside from the family. Let's go talk shop." I said, "Let me show you something," which he didn't have, which was the United Nations letter. I said, "Here, to read this." He read it. He knows what the Hague and Geneva Conventions are. And he went, "Whoa." I said, "Doesn't this take this up a notch?" He says, "Yeah." Then I told him about the mandamus that I found in Washington, D.C. against the president to administer the laws of the occupied state, to comply with the law of occupation, Hague and Geneva Conventions. So basically, as we're talking, we're getting into procedures. And the one thing that we do in the Army, you don't allow crap to roll downhill. Crap rolls uphill. Pass it up the chain of command. And by the time it comes back down, it should be fertilizer. Right? You don't keep it. So I said, procedurally, if I was in your position as a commander, I would bring in my JAG officer. And I'll provide him this information, the mandamus that was filed in Washington, D.C., and desires his letter, and have him provide me a legal opinion that I'm not incurring criminal liability with regard to destruction of property at Pu'akulua. And he said, "Got it." He did it. He passed it on. Okay. So when I'm meeting with Jennifer, I already knew that, because that's a way to start asking the right questions, but don't come to conclusions regarding criminal liability. That's what you don't want to do. And that's why I recommended to her that she brings in Corporation Counsel, which is like the JAG version of the county, the lawyer, and put them to task. And this is going to come out of your position as an official council member because of the UN document. That is the key, not because of some activists, not because of some Native Hawaiian screaming or anything. That's just that. And I said, you can't do it yourself. I want to recommend an attorney that will do it for you, and let him go toe-to-toe with the Corporation Counsel. Because this can get complicated. Yeah? It gets complex. This is not a political process, I told her. You're not trying to sway opinions. You're going to become a whistleblower, and you gotta see that there's going to be retaliation, And when you start saying whistleblower and retaliation, then people start to back off, because you're not supposed to retaliate against a whistleblower if there are grounds for criminal actions. So I said, that's why you got to bring in the attorney. And his name is Steve Howdy. He's from Indiana. Okay. And what I like about the situation that I shared with Jennifer, number one, Jennifer's Howley, and she's American. And her attorney is Howley, and he's American. And the only native Hawaiian is Kamehameha, who's the corporation counsel. Because this is not about native Hawaiian sovereignty. It never was, right? But you have a lot of sovereignty groups that have placed a sour taste in the mouths of some of these people, right? I had to make sure that Jennifer would not be perceived within that framework, but rather within the framework of the law and her duty as an official. So the war crime is the legislation, which is a violation of Article 43 of the Hague Convention and Article 64 of the Geneva Convention. It's not because she's a council member that's a war crime. Because war crimes have to be very specific as to violations of provisions of the Hague and Geneva Conventions and what is also called international humanitarian law. Okay. And since then, I gotta say, her attorney has got the attention of a lot of people. And you have some attorneys that have been, one attorney actually contacted Jennifer from America, from New Mexico, and said he applauded what she did and glad that she retained counsel because he read the letters that her attorney drafted. Now, one thing about this, Steve Laudig actually has a very good friend who is a retired JAG officer. Lives in San Francisco, I think. He passed on the two letters that he drafted over to him to get some insight from this retired JAG officer. He said, spot on, you nailed it. So Jennifer is in the right. The only thing that Jennifer is facing is ignorance, right? And that's what's important. And what I told her is, don't turn this thing into something political. Keep it procedural, keep it legal, and put the burden on the other side. And that's what she's doing, okay? And I told her, I really didn't know Jennifer, right? I never knew her, but I've come to know her. And I gotta tell you, she's a solid way in it. I say you are morally and ethically grounded. That is for sure she is. And that is what is gonna make her pop in what she's doing. And as long as she has resources that she can rely on, like her attorney, she's good, right? But the one thing that she needs, because she's a whistleblower, there needs to be a movement, a ground movement here in Hawaii, because of our education. We got our victims coming out. We got to say I'm a victim, right? My rights were violated under the Hague and Geneva Conventions, even though I didn't even know what they were before. Because you know, your rights can be violated without you even knowing it. Because these are crimes, these are not civil torts. These are crimes that apply to you whether you knew it or not. Now the question would be, why didn't you know it? Well, we were led to believe something that's not true. And what's happening is education is piercing through that facade. And it's scaring people. But it's true and it's real. It is real. Now,